Hi everyone, Sarah Pacaro, Rapid Transformational Therapist, and today we're going to talk about different gaslighting phrases. If you've ever been with a narcissist or toxic and unhealthy person, you have experienced receiving these phrases and most likely struggling to interpretate them and decipher what they mean for you, what the reality is, and what they're just saying. It's a form of crazy making. So gaslighting, specifically when it comes to malignant narcissists, and how they use them to silence you. So we're going to translate and dissect some of these very common phrases today. So gaslighting is an erosion of your sense of reality. It creates this mental fog, and when I work with people, often that fog is lifted, like that black dark cloud that people will describe is gone because you see the reality. But until then, it's connected to your perception of reality based upon experiences from your own past. And then they're intertwined and mixed and trauma bonded with this narcissist and the phrases that they're using in this gaslighting. So it is this twisted funhouse smoke and mirror distortion of reality that ends up being very apparent in any kind of abusive relationship, specifically with malignant narcissists. When they gaslight you, they engage in these discussions with these word salads, and then it's sprinkled in with love bombing and silent treatment and stonewalling, and you're like, what is going on? It feels like you're on a roller coaster. And gaslighting is very, very damaging because it enables the narcissist to exhaust you to the point where you are unable to fight back any longer. Rather than finding healthy ways to detach from the toxic person, you are sabotaged in your own efforts to find a sense of certainty and validation for what you've experienced. And it's extremely confusing. It's a powerful, powerful tool, and you don't even see it as that because we don't think of it as a tool, but it is extremely powerful in keeping you exactly where they want you, which is up here, you down here and them up here, so they get what they want. They continue to use you as whatever source or form of supply that you are for them. It comes from a 1938 movie, Gaslight, where a very manipulative husband drove his wife to insanity by doing just that, causing her to question what she experienced. And there's other movies and things that it's come up in, so obviously I don't think many of us have gone back, but that's where it stems from. And it takes many forms. So it's questioning your status, your mental health, to outright challenge these experiences that you've lived. And the most dangerous form of any kind of people who use this tool are malignant narcissists, sociopaths, psychopaths. And many people I've worked with have read the book Psychopath Free. It's a phenomenal book. If you haven't read it, it will definitely help this term and concept make more sense for you. So check out that book if you haven't. But these perpetrators use gaslighting very statistically because they lack remorse. They lack emotional empathy. They have cognitive empathy, but they lack emotional empathy. And you'll see this, they have no limits when they terrorize you or they provoke you, and it's like performing murder with walking away and your hands are clean, because they get you to do it to yourself. They drive you to the point where you feel that you're insane, allowing them to get away with their mistreatment. So it is like murder with clean hands in a way, because they are in this position where, no, look at them. Look at what they're doing to me. It keeps them in that victim role mentality, which we talk about all the time, is they don't take responsibility. They're the ones that were hurt and shamed. So you'll hear these phrases in the context of an emotionally abusive relationship where they serve to demean you, belittle you, and distort the reality and abuse of their victim. So the first one is this common phrase is, "You're crazy," or "You need help, you have mental issues." The translation for this gaslighting phrase is that you are not the pathological one here. So them saying you're crazy, you need help, you need mental help, the translation is, you're not the pathological one here. You're just catching on to who I really am behind this mask, because we all know that narcissists wear a mask and that's what we see. And this is an attempt to hold me accountable for my questionable behavior, because all behavior from a narcissist is questionable. And they are seeing that you're catching on to that. So then they're deflecting and saying, you're the one that's crazy. And I'd rather you question your own sanity so that you believe that the problem is really you, rather than my own deceptiveness and manipulation. So as long as you believe that you're the one that needs help, which is what you do when you hear this phrase, you need help, you're crazy, I'll never have to take responsibility for changing my own distorted ways of thinking and behaving. So that's the translation behind this phrase. You're crazy, you have mental issues, you're the one that needs help. It's them seeing that you're catching on to them and flipping it around. So they will play this role in everything that they do, getting treated like they're the victims, diagnosing their victims, you, with this mental health issue for having emotions. It's their way to undermine your credibility of, oh shit, they're catching on to me, they're seeing this. The next gaslighting phrase that you will hear is, well, look, you're insecure, you're jealous. And maybe you catch them texting or sending messages to an ex or like to a new person, and you're like, wait a minute, that's not right. Why would you do that? You're in a relationship with me. And they're telling you, God, you're just so insecure. Get over it. It's not a big deal. They're just a friend. Or look at you. You're so jealous. Because you've got this gut feeling, this intuition that something is not right. And so they throw in this gaslighting phrase, you're insecure, you're jealous. Well, the translation here from the narcissist is, I enjoy planting these little seeds of insecurity and doubt in your mind about your worth, your attractiveness, your sexiness, your competence, your personality. So here you go. You're insecure, you're jealous, and that is them planting a little seed of doubt in your mind. If you dare question my flirtation or my texting a friend, then that's on you. And you maybe have been in a relationship with a narcissist who has multiple affairs or inappropriate interactions. Maybe you really believe that they haven't physically cheated on you, but here they are emotionally cheating on you by engaging and flirting with people online or wherever it is. Maybe it's someone from work. But really what they're saying is, if you dare to question my flirtations and my interactions and affairs, then I'll be sure to put you in your place for your fear of losing me. And that's exactly what keeps you entangled in this mess, is this fear of losing him. And because that connects to a deep fear of being alone forever, a deep fear of abandonment. And they know this, so they plant the seed. So the problem is, I'll convince you, isn't my deceptive behavior that I'm texting, because I can text whoever I want, it's your inability to remain confident while I perpetually put you down. That's the translation behind this phrase here. So they're comparing you in demeaning ways to others and eventually cast you aside for the next best thing when they move on or discard you and replace you with different supply. And so know that. That's the translation behind this phrase of you're just insecure and you're just jealous. Like everything in the world, it gets them what they want. And it's not you, it's just supply. The next common gaslighting phrase you'll hear is, you're too sensitive, or God, you're overreacting, it's not that big of a deal. So behind this phrase, you're too sensitive or you're overreacting, is the translation, it's not that you're too sensitive, but rather that I'm insensitive, callous, and unempathetic. That's what they're saying, what they're actually saying when they're saying you're too sensitive or you're overreacting, is I don't care about your emotions unless they serve me in some way. So your negative reactions provide me stimulation and pleasure. So please, just keep on doing it, because I enjoy putting you down for having legitimate reactions to my abuse. They love when they can poke you and you enrage and you lose it. They sit back with that smirk on their face like, wow, do you see you right now? Do you see the way that you're acting? And you're acting that way because it's reactive abuse. They've emotionally and verbally abused you by saying this gaslighting phrase, you're too sensitive and you're overreacting. So one of the effects of gaslighting include asking yourself, am I too sensitive? All throughout the day, am I too sensitive? Because victims are overreacting or oversensitive to emotional abuse, because obviously you've received and heard this phrase. So asking yourself, am I? Most often the answer is no. You are reacting, but you're not overreacting. You're simply reacting the way that anyone who experienced the type of abuse that you have would. So whether someone is a sensitive person or not, and I hear this all the time in this world, is I'm highly sensitive, I'm over emotional, oversensitive. No, you're human. You're simply reacting. And when you've gone through this emotional abuse and this severity, they can use that term, that gaslighting phrase, against you to get you to believe that. And all it does is give them more power and control. So whether or not someone is sensitive is irrelevant when it comes to cases of psychological or emotional abuse. So abuse affects everyone. And everyone has different levels of sensitivity depending on how long you have experienced this abuse. And it always and most often is connected and related to your childhood. So you've been experiencing it most likely for a lifetime. And it's not just these phrases that you heard, but maybe something as simple as because I told you so, or because I said so, or you were compared to siblings in some kind of way that they were better than you and you weren't as good as them. And so you've been hearing these in different ways all throughout your life. So now when you're in this relationship 30 years later and you hear this phrase used against you, it triggers all of those inner unhealed wounds inside of you. The next one is one I used to hear all the time. It was just a joke. God, you have no sense of humor. I was joking, with that look. And you know that look that I'm talking about. So this gaslighting phrase, I didn't even know it was then, but thank God I know now. It was just a joke. Can't you take a joke? You have no sense of humor. The translation to this gaslighting phrase is, I love disguising my abusive behavior as just jokes. I would always say out loud, well, jokes are funny. That wasn't funny at all. If it was funny, I'd be laughing. It's not a joke. But the translation is, I love disguising my abusive behavior and labeling it, claiming it as a joke, because I like calling you names. I like putting you down. And then claiming that you're the one that lacks a sense of humor to appreciate my wit, that you are the one that doesn't get it. Making you feel defective is what allows me to say and do whatever the hell I wish, with a smile and a little laugh. So that's the translation behind the phrase, it was just a joke, I was joking. So you'll notice that these disgusting or cruel remarks, these off-color comments or put-downs are just jokes, or such a popular way for them to verbally abuse you. So, it's not a joke, because it's not funny. But just jokes are used to test boundaries, especially early on in an emotionally abusive relationship, because what you've rationalized is that you have these deaf tones or off-color comments in the beginning, that gut feeling when you're like, well, that really wasn't that funny. Those later on plant the seeds for them, like, oh, they'll take it, they didn't say anything, and escalate into psychological violence very quickly in the hands of a narcissist. So yeah, that's the translation behind that one. I used to get that one all the time. So if you find that you have a partner who laughs at you more than they laugh with you, sure sign. And it doesn't ever get any better. The next really most common gaslighting phrase is, you need to let it go. Come on. What, really? You're bringing this up again? Because you're connecting to something that was unresolved in the past, because they never go back and say, hey, let's sit down, let's dissect this, talk about this, let's figure this out, let's work through this. They simply tell you, you need to let it go. Why are you bringing this up again? I don't want to fight with you. I don't want to argue with you. I used to hear this all the time, and it was the fastest way he tried to shut me down. Sarah, I don't want to fight. And it was simply him saying, I don't want to take responsibility. You need to let that go. Really? You're bringing this up again? The translation here around that common gaslighting phrase is, I haven't given you enough time to even process the incident of the abuse, but you need to let it go so I can move forward with exploiting you without facing any consequences here for my behavior, because that's what it comes down to. They never take responsibility for their behavior, and that's this translation behind this gaslighting phrase, you need to let it go. Let me love bomb you into thinking that things will be different this time around, is really what they're saying. Don't bring up my patterns of abusive behavior, because then you'll recognize this as a cycle and you won't allow it to continue. So that's what they're meaning when they say, let it go, you need to move on. In any abusive cycle, it is so common to engage in this hot and cold style where they periodically throw in breadcrumbs of affection. We talk about this all the time to keep you hooked and renew this return to the honeymoon phase. And we talk about this cycle all the time. It's the love bombing, the discard, the devalue, and they just want to keep you stuck in this cycle. And this common gaslighting phrase, let it go, you're really bringing this up again, allows them to stay in that cycle and keeps you hooked. So this is how manipulation tactic, it's known as intermittent reinforcement, and it's common for an abuser to terrorize you only to return the next day and act like nothing happened. When you do recall the abusive incidents, the abuser tells you with this gaslighting phrase, let it go, come on, let's move on. Really, you're bringing that up again so that they can continue and sustain that cycle of abuse. So know this. That translation behind it is extremely powerful. The next one, we'll go over two more, is you're the problem here, not me. Do you see you? It's not me. You're the one that's the problem. The translation behind this gaslighting phrase is you're the problem here, not me, is I am the problem here, but I'll be damned if I let you know it. I'd rather subject you to personal attacks, have you bend over backwards trying to hit constantly moving goalposts. Okay, you see the goalpost here, there's the target, and you go for it, you aim for it, and then boop, they move it over. But they love that they can manipulate and move this goalpost all the time with these arbitrary expectations of the way that I think you should feel and behave. So as you spend most of your time trying to fix your fabricated flaws and all these things, you're like, I know I'm not perfect, but I'm working on it, while constantly feeling like you're coming up short. You're like, I know I'm not perfect, I know I have things I'm working through, but you feel like you're constantly coming up short for what you feel like you're really deemed worthy of. And I can just sit back and relax and continue to mistreat you the way that I feel entitled to. And you won't have any energy left to call me out. That's what the translation is behind this phrase of you're the problem here, not me. It's simply a form of sitting back and going, look, I know you need to work on yourself. I support you in that. I love you in that. Yeah, I'm not perfect either, but yeah, you really do need help. So it's really, really common for them to use this gaslighting phrase to make you feel that way, that translation. And the last one we'll go over today is, I never said that. I didn't say that. I didn't do that. You're imagining things. Yeah. The translation behind this phrase that gets used all too often in abusive relationships is they make you question. It's making you question what I did or said, so it allows me to cast doubt on your perceptions and memories of the abuse that you experienced. You're asking them about, well, why did you do this? Like when last time, you're trying to make sense of this, you're trying to understand it, and they're telling you, I never said that. No, I never did that. You're imagining that. Because in your mind, you're like, no, wait, why would you do that? You say you love me. I know that I love you. If we really loved each other, if you love me and I love you, why would you do that? And they're casting doubt on your perceptions. It's like this blanket of doubt coming down on you. And it's all these experiences of this abuse that you've had, you're questioning yourself. So it's like they're getting into your mind. And if I make you think that you're imagining things, you'll start to wonder if you're going crazy rather than pinpointing the evidence on me as the abuser. That's the translation behind this phrase here. And many, many victims of chronic gaslighting struggle with this cognitive dissonance. This comes up all the time in working with people. This cognitive dissonance, which occurs when their abuser tells them that they never did something, but they're like, I know you did that. So what do you mean you never did that? Yes, you did. I was there. It's like reasonable doubt can sway a jury even when a hint of something didn't happen. after all, is powerful enough to overrule someone's perception. So say that you're in this jury, right? Imagine a courtroom and there's 100 jurors and you can't get a guilty verdict if even one person says, no, I don't think so. And that's what they're counting on. This same kind of metaphor here is, you are those 99 jurors that say absolutely without a doubt that happened, and then there's that one that's like, I don't know. And you are that one. So if you're that one saying, I don't know, you're not going to get a verdict of guilty, even though you know, but there's that doubt, and that self-doubt is what kills you and eats you inside, and what allows them to get away with it, walk away with their hands being clean, and continue to abuse you. So the big picture here with all these gaslighting phrases is that in order to resist the effects of gaslighting, you've got to get in touch with your sense of reality, because that's what gaslighting does. It takes you away from your sense and perception of reality and prevents you from getting entrapped in this endless loop and cycle of self-doubt. And it destroys your confidence, your self-worth, your motivation. It destroys everything. So the way to get grounded, get your feet back on the ground, is to get back in touch with your reality. Not what they think your reality should be, because obviously what they think your reality should be is the one that just dismisses and allows them to continue abusing you the way that they do. So really identify and see those red flags as red flags, stop dismissing them, and stop letting them get you in positions and situations where your reality is distorted and you are actually the one making yourself going crazy. So I hope that this explanation helps you in wherever you're at on your journey to healing, and when you're wanting to break through and cut through and really be with what caused all of this, then I would love to connect with you and help out. That's what we do. It's not fun work, but it's worthwhile work. Ask anyone. I know I share sometimes people who have worked with me, and they can attest to it's extremely life-changing, because hearing these gaslighting phrases is life-changing enough, and breaking through all that absolutely changes everything. So thank you guys. I'd love to connect if that's where you're at and what you're wanting your life to move towards, and get away from this gaslighting and all these toxic thoughts in our head and move towards happiness and healing. So thank you all, and I look forward to connecting with you soon.